I gave him what he needed.
What is dramatic context, and how is it used in a story? Hello and welcome to Get Writing. I'm Dr. Stavros Halvatsis. Dramatic context is what arranges the major narrative beats of the tale into the beginning, middle, and end of the story. In other words, it places them into Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 according to the specific function each beat has to perform within the context of each act. Syd Field reminds us that another way to think of the dramatic context is in terms of the purpose of each act. The purpose of Act 1 is to set up the story, Act 2 to create confrontation and complication, and Act 3 to bring about a climax and a resolution. The beats that occur within each act are controlled by their context. In Act 1, we have the introduction to the ordinary world before the crisis, the inciting incident, and the first turning point. In Act 2, we have two pinches close to the beginning and end of the act. We are reminded that pinches are scenes that give us what the story is really about. And Act 2 also contains the midpoint and the second turning point. Finally, Act 3 unleashes the climax and the resolution. But here's the really useful part. Each act can be formulated in terms of a specific question to guide the writer in creating specific beats that, in effect, answer the question. Another way to put it is that the dramatic context of each act drives story events by posing them as act-specific answers to act-specific questions. In the movie Legion, Archangel Michael disobeys God's command to wreak havoc on man for his perpetual disobedience. Instead, Michael cuts off his wings, making himself human. He appoints himself protector of a pregnant waitress at a remote diner. The unborn child, Michael declares, is mankind's last hope. In choosing this path, Michael pits himself against Gabriel. Michael decides to sacrifice himself for his cause, a sacrifice which ironically leads God to restore Michael to his former self, intact with wings and angelic powers. Michael then defeats Gabriel and saves the child and, by implication, the whole of humanity. The film's setup, Act 1, asks and answers the question, what is the purpose of the strange occurrences around the remote diner? The confrontation and complication, Act 2, asks and answers the question, will Michael and his motley crew prevail against the rebellion? The climax and resolution asks and answers the question, having survived the conflict thus far, will Michael overcome the final obstacle by defeating Gabriel himself and thus saving the child and the world? Here we can clearly see that writing scenes that obey the dramatic context of each act, scenes that pose and answer questions specific to each act, provides a roadmap for your story to be kept on track. To sum it all up then, the dramatic context of each act defines the kinds of incidents that must occur at the beginning, middle, and end of your story. It does this by posing and answering questions act by act. Well, that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment to share your thoughts and to help the channel grow. See you soon.